Welcome to Pound for Pound Sports. I'm Nick Eustace.
And I'm Darren.
Thank you. Darren? Just Darren?
Just Darren today.
Woo! Man, throwing me a curveball. Thank you guys so much for joining us once again. PFPsports.com is your website, main page for all you Justin TV fans out there. We love Justin TV. Follow me on Twitter, at Nick, PFP Sports.
Find me at Darren, PFP Sports.
Check out our Facebook page, Pound for Pound Sports. Gotta love it. Throwing up stuff every day. Man, it's been kind of a weird week this week in MMA. I mean, just a lot of kind of off-the-wall, crazy stories. First one that comes to mind, obviously, would be Chael Sonnen. I mean, you see that guy on the... he's on the set, so to speak, and he's out there calling everybody out, and I don't know, man. I'm a fan of his as an announcer and what he does behind the scenes, but I got to be honest with you, man. I'm not a fan of him going up to 205. And for those of you out there that didn't hear it, apparently he's going to 205 and he's going to fight Forrest Griffin. And first, I want to get your first thoughts about that. I mean, 205 the place for him? I mean,
no.
We've been asking
man.
What's next for a couple weeks now. And
the talent at 205 is so much more stacked than it is at 185. I can't imagine him going up and having much success there. I mean, but then again, what's he supposed to do? Stay at 185? I mean, obviously he's got a roadblock in his way in Anderson Silva.
Yeah, I mean, I guess really at the end of the day, it really depends on what you want for the rest of your career. I mean, I suppose with a guy like Chael Sonnen, I mean, I don't know that it's time to stick a fork in the guy and say, it's just up to you to fight interesting fights. But that said, I mean, there is a roadblock in Anderson Silva at 185, but I don't know that the roadblocks at 205 are any better.
No, and it's a lot deeper too, especially for somebody. What is he? He's just let's call it what it is. He's a good wrestler. He's gonna go up against guys like Phil Davises of the world,
right.
Rashad Evans, guys that could wrestle with him, but then again knock him out. And I think this matchup in itself against Forrest Griffin is a little interesting. I know they have some history. They fought back in 2003 before either one of them were in the UFC, and you're never going to believe this, but he lost by a triangle choke. And I just don't know what it is with Chael Sonnen. I love him on the behind-the-scenes stuff. Doing the stuff with Fuel TV, doing the post-fight shows. I love that stuff. I think he's phenomenal at that. But it's like the guy just today, as a matter of fact, he had some Twitter beef with John Jones, and I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's time to tell a different story, because that's you remind me. I saw him on the set, and he was like, I could take John Jones's bout, and I'm like, yeah, but you've already. It's time for a new gimmick. I dig the trash talk, and I'm still a fan. Don't get me wrong, but I mean it's the same story, just a different champion, and it's played out. It's over. It didn't go your way, and I think it's time to.
I think what people out there need to realize is you can't let Chael Sonnen's mouth make him a contender, because he's not.
No,
he's not a contender. He's not even a top 10 in the 205, in my opinion. I mean, just look at the guys fighting for the title. John Jones, Dan Henderson, Machida. Even a guy like Ryan Bader, I think, would hold his own against a Chael Sonnen.
Well, and you raise an interesting point, because one of the things I was thinking about just with that whole move to 205 is the fact that it's a tough move for anybody. For one, because we're not even talking about a 15-pound variance anymore. We're talking about 20 pounds, and that 20 pounds is going to translate. And I just don't think it's going to let him use his strong suits, his wrestling. He's not going to be able to dominate with that wrestling. So what else do you pull out of the tool bag?
What's funny? It's funny because one of the guys that does some writing for our website, Jason's 15%. Check it out. It's just a little blog he does. But we were kind of talking about this topic, and all of a sudden I hear him over at his desk, and he's just laughing. And he goes, his response is, "Oh, okay, UFC found their answer. We'll just throw Forrest Griffin at him." It's like that's our answer for everything. Just throw Forrest Griffin at it. And I'm not.
It's a good point.
Yeah, it is a good point. But I don't know. I don't know what this does for either one of them at this point. I mean, this very well could be Forrest Griffin's last fight.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's funny, because just a couple weeks ago I was throwing up some clips on the website, and Dana White voiced publicly his desire for guys like Forrest Griffin and I think he said Rich Franklin. He lumped him in that name group of names, that they should retire. They really have nothing left to prove.
Silva.
What's that?
Vanderlei Silva's
there's
another
one. There's another one. But the thing about it is, I think Forrest Griffin is, they throw him out there to a lot of people, but I feel like it's a good opportunity for both, because Chael would have you believe that Forrest Griffin fought this great fight, and he was he's talking about Forrest like he should have had fight of the night, his last fight, and let's be honest, I mean that fight was only competitive because Tito was equally less impressive, than he has been. Let's just put it mildly, I mean, I don't know, man. Forrest Griffin's a good opportunity for him, but at the same time, what happens if Forrest Griffin wins? I mean, they're talking about guys that walk around at 230 sometimes, like Forrest.
I don't see the move up. He's going to be fighting bigger guys. I don't see how that's going to help him.
Yeah, and it's not just bigger guys, but there's a lot of guys at 205 that cut insane amounts of weight. You know, I mean, it's just I don't see how it's going to work.
What's your early prediction on this fight? What do you think happens?
You know, for me, there's so many questions. I mean, how is Sonnen's striking going to come into play? But I mean, it's hard for me to imagine a much taller, bigger guy in Forrest Griffin, you know, with his gas tank, just not being able to pick apart a guy like Sonnen. It's hard for me to imagine Sonnen getting him to the ground, dominating him like he did Brian Stann at 185.
Yeah,
I can't see it.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't really know what's going on, but. I'm tired of Chael Sonnen trying to talk his way into big matchups. You know, I mean, those days are over.
It's that card's been played a couple times. It's time to go back to the drawing board.
You're just coming up to 205, and you're going to start talking all this junk about John Jones.
Enough. It's enough.
And so it is. I'm ready to move on with the whole Chael Sonnen beef. But like I said, love him on the behind-the-scenes stuff. Absolutely.
And speaking of ready to move on, brings me to my next topic. Jason Mayhem Miller, got tongue-tied. He gets arrested this week. Crazy report. I guess they found him sleeping naked in a church. Vandalism involved. I don't know, man.
I've heard all kinds of stuff. Burglary. I mean, but yeah.
You can't believe everything you read on the internet. But even if only half of that is true, I mean, got to make you wonder what's going on with this guy.
You know, it's too bad, man. I always thought Jason Mayhem Miller, you know, was one of the better characters we had in MMA. And, you know, I always loved his entrances.
Yeah.
But it's clearly this guy's going through a pretty rough spot in his life right now, and it's just too bad. I mean, the guy had so many things going for him. He had the show, you know, Bully Beatdown, which is still one of my favorite shows. I love watching that show. He was a solid fighter. You know, a lot of people wanted him to link him up to one of the world's better fighters, but you know, I'll still argue to this day that he doesn't have any signature wins. You know, and to get cut from the UFC, he had some beef with Dana White. I don't know, man. It's obvious his life is not in a good spot right now.
Well, he got into a Twitter war with Dana White, and today, in fact, check out the video news. I posted a clip of Dana White saying, "Hey, you know, I'm sorry I got into that whole Twitter war with you. You know, he actually seems like he genuinely feels, you know, not pity, but just bad. He genuinely seems sorry for even going there. He says obviously the guy's got problems.
When's a good time to joke around with a guy like Jason Miller, who always seems to be joking around?
Have you ever seen an interview, a shtick-free interview? You've never seen that, ever, you know? And I was thinking about that today, and I was kind of thinking, you know, his previous stint in the UFC, I mean, obviously that was when the UFC was still buying time on Spike TV. I mean, that's how long ago that was. But his last fight in the octagon was against GSP. And this is at a point in time when guys like Mayhem Miller, Karo Parisian, a lot of guys out there, they were the dominant figures in MMA.
Yeah.
And it really, if nothing else, it just goes to show you how fast the sport of mixed martial arts has really evolved. I mean, guys like that who were competitive at the top of the food chain. I mean, they're having trouble. They're getting cut.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You look at a guy and you could look at his resume. I mean, his signature win, if you could even call it that, is Dennis King. If you could even call him a signature win.
It's a lot of guys in Pride. It's a lot of guys in Dream, Pride, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, but he's always been considered one of, you know, he's always been on everybody's mind. And for a guy that's really not gone out there, and I mean, he's lost to just about all the solid, good fighters he's fought.
You know what?
Being Jake Shields.
He just looks so. He's not even. I mean, just his stand-up looks. Very inadequate compared
especially his last couple fights in the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
they look pathetic.
It's been really disappointing, and you know what I was thinking? It's totally off the subject, but I was thinking Junior Seau. You know, obviously, I'm sure everybody knows the name Junior Seau out there, and you know, we all know what happened to him, and a lot of people wonder, you know, how does the depression set in when you're not in the premier organization in the world or playing or competing the way you want to compete anymore. A lot of athletes don't really know how to deal with that. And, you know, Mayhem Miller, he'd spent so long trying to build his brand. And I remember before he'd even come back to the UFC, there was a long, you know, back and forth type of battle, you know. Some reports, you know, would show that he's on his way in. Some would say, no, I'm going to stay at Dream. And I had always heard Mayhem say he wants to stay and build his brand. He wants to have that creativity over his brand that I guess he didn't feel he could get with the UFC. And now that card's been played. He's had his stint in the UFC. It didn't go according to plan.
No.
And I got to wonder, you know, how much of that is taking its toll on a guy like him. You know, I mean, that can't be it can't be easy. You know? I mean,
it's obviously.
Some depression.
It sounds like a party to me. If you're lying naked in a church somewhere, I mean, he must have been trashed, right?
That was my first idea. I was like, seriously, man, is that a party? Or,
yeah, maybe it's just like he went on a serious bender, and we'll see him back. I mean, listen, there's organizations out there that would jump at a chance to sign a guy like Jason Miller.
I mean, if I think we're playing the mugshot as we're talking about this. I mean, enjoy the mugshot. I mean, he looks like he's having a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, check it out.
Maybe he just went out there and partied. Maybe we're reading too much into this, talking about how depressed he is. Maybe he was just, absolutely trashed. And I mean, who am I to throw stones
wrong.
at that? We've both been there.
Oh,
I mean,
for sure.
Let's be honest here.
I've lost a shoe.
Yeah,
you know, it happens. It happens to the best of us. But I'm still a Mayhem fan.
Yeah, no, I hope to see this guy back on his feet. Like I said, there's plenty of organizations back out there that would love to give this guy another shot. I mean, we're seeing guys like Phil Baroni still getting chances.
Guys with sub 500 records.
Mayhem Miller
sure.
will get a chance.
There's
somewhere.
a place for him, and I'd love to see it. You know what's funny is a couple weeks ago, we were sitting here and we were talking about, you know, is there going to be a death in MMA? I mean, there's already been a death in MMA, but it's never one of the premier organizations. It's always one of the regional places.
Yep.
And, you know, sadly this week, an amateur, Tyrone Mims, he died after a bout. It was Conflict MMA Promotions in South Carolina. Literally, we were talking about this a couple weeks back, and we were wondering, man, you know, some of these regional promotions, you know, where they have the fighters selling the tickets. I sat here and I was asking, you know, where is their incentive to keep a fighter that's been knocked out or, you know, injured on some type of level from fighting in the next month's card when you need them to sell X amount of tickets? I mean, there's really there's no incentive to hold a guy like that back. And, you know, here we are. I mean, the early reports, they had an autopsy. I think they're going to go a little further with that and really see, but
there's nothing definitive that it was caused by the bout. But let's be real. I mean, if the guy was sitting at home barbecuing with his family,
he'd still be alive right now.
Yeah, you're telling me he would have
Absolutely.
I mean, come on.
And that's, like I said, you see this all the time, and, you know, here we go again. I mean, I don't really know what the right answer is. I mean, they'll sit here and say, oh, the pre-fight medical check, blah, 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 checked out before and after the fight, and here we are with a guy that's dead.
Well,
you know?
It's tragic, too, man. We're talking about a guy that fathered five kids.
Young guy, man.
5 kids that guy had, man.
I know.
5 kids.
Which goes to show you, I mean, like I said, we've met a lot of these guys coming up, and a lot of these guys, they're in that gray area where, you know, I don't have enough money to do this full time, but it's their passion, and that's how a lot of them, you know, make extra money. I mean, it's a tough living, the fight game, but man, it's a real tragic story, you know.
Oh, no, yeah, it's totally. You know what? The real eye opener thing to me is obviously a man lost his life, and it was a tragic thing. But
yeah,
if for a second I can move on from that, this is the second time this promotion has gone through this.
Yeah,
this is the second time I was reading up on it. In 2010, they had a similar thing. When a guy got knocked out 2 times within the span of 32 days.
Yeah,
and he died after that second one.
Yeah,
and we've seen guys fighting in the cage that shouldn't be fighting, or fighting. I'm like, hey man, didn't we just see that guy 3 weeks ago get knocked out cold? You know, and
stiff. Like,
so somebody's got to hold that place accountable.
But that's the thing. I read that there was an actual commission in place, and that's kind of what throws me off. I'm like, well, what kind of commission is that? I mean.
Yeah, and then they do. They talk about, he went through all of his pre-fight medicals. He submitted a blood test. He went through his post-fight medicals.
Right.
And they were taking him to the hospital, and I guess he died on the way to the hospital. But, I mean, just because they submitted a pre-test, you know, went to their I mean, how do we know what goes on at those pre-fight medicals?
You don't know.
I mean, for Christ's sake, what if we just shine a flashlight in his eyes? Okay, yeah, this guy's breathing.
Yeah, and you know what?
I mean,
know
what it is.
A lot of times you see it's very unorganized, and you know, you got people are running late. I don't know. You know, I was sitting here saying, you know, commission needs to oversee everything, but here we are with a commission, and still this happens.
There's a reason why this stuff doesn't happen in the higher promotions.
Yeah,
there's a reason. I mean, I don't know. And not only that, but we're talking about, you know, high-level athletes going in there against the best in the world, and there's a reason. Whether it's the way, you know, the doctors kind of turn the other cheek in those smaller promotions, I have no idea. But there's got to be a reason why it's not happening in the bigger promotions.
Yeah, you know, it's just that they double and they triple check, and you know, well they already have enough money. You know, there's plenty of incentive for them to hold a guy back, and that's kind of what, like I said, you know, we were talking about, you know, the last couple UFCs, and when guys get, like, depending on the severity of the injury, they get, you know, a no contact type of thing, and no training for 6 months. I mean, they have all these kind of different medical suspensions, and man, you just don't see that in the regional places.
It seems to me like these guys out there are making dirty dollars, and we talked about that a couple weeks ago. And you know, I understand everyone's got you know, to earn a living, but at the expense of a father of 5 losing his life. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day,
I don't even know if this promotion was in the wrong whatsoever. But the second time this has happened in the span of 2 years, shut it down, man. Shut it down.
I mean, that's got to be the kiss of death for a promotion. And you know, what's funny is, well, there's nothing funny about it, but I'm wondering, you know, what you got to wonder what kind of insurance they have. You know, what kind of backing they have. Some places don't even have that. I mean, they have the bare bones minimum at, you know, just enough to stay legal, and it's just. I don't know, you know, that's part of the problem MMA has with you know, people want to regulate it too much, or some people don't like it at all. I mean, the problem lies with the lower level promotions. You know, some are great, some are not. You know, you can't lump them all in the same group, but man, something's got to be done, because I mean, this can't just keep happening. You know,
the number one goal of every MMA promotion, whether it's UFC or whether it's a fight around the corner. It has to be fighter safety, and it's just clear to me the last couple months that that's not the case.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It's very, very unfortunate, and you just hate to see that kind of thing. Evander Holyfield, Ray Mercer too. I mean, does that even need an introduction? I mean,
when I first saw that, I almost fired water right out of my nose.
Wow.
But you know what? The more and more I dug into this, this fight is for charity, and it's an exhibition, a full-round exhibition. So
is it an Evander Holyfield charity? I mean, the guy's got he's got a lot of child support back payments, man. What charity are we talking?
Ray Mercer represents a charity. And he's trying to get exposure for his charity, so I can't really hate on him.
Props
for that.
to him, man. You know, Ray Mercer actually, that's where the Tim Sylvia gravy train officially stopped, was with Ray Mercer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to lose to, Fedor, arguably in his prime, maybe not, but, a really old Ray Mercer. I mean, that's real tough to come back from. And
51 years old, Ray Mercer. And Holyfield will be 50 in October, so both these guys will be 50 going into this. It's going to take place in February, South Africa. They're going to...
Full rounds, though.
Full rounds is going to honor, Nelson Mandela. I wonder if either one of these guys will even be able to get to 4 rounds. But as much as I wanted to hate on this when I first saw the story, and this is exactly why I'm like, oh, maybe we should talk about this. Yeah. The more and more I looked into it, I'm like, how can I hate on a guy when he's doing it for charity and he's doing it to try to get exposure for his charity? But at the same time, I mean, these guys are going to go out there and try to win the fight. I mean, full round exhibition or not.
If you talk to Holyfield, and again, I'm not hating on. I'm such a huge Evander Holyfield fan. I mean. Followed that guy's career.
How long ago, though? I mean, that guy's he's had trouble hanging it up for a long time
That's what
now.
I'm saying. If you still talk to him, he still believes that he's going to be the undisputed champ of the world, and somebody needs to tell him, look, when you see certain guys' speech going, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like,
yeah,
man,
sad to see.
Somebody's got to let the guy know, man. His body's just not reacting with the mind's doing.
It's sad to see, man.
It's crazy, though, because he's always in amazing physical condition. That's... looks like he could fight.
Let me ask you a question after we just, poo-pooed all over this whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
So they're charging you $9.99 to get on pay-per-view. You watching?
$9.99?
$9.99.
I don't know, man. That's a bit steep.
Because I am. I would pay $9.99 away. Hell, dude, come on, man. We're talking about a fight. Evander Holyfield, Ray Mercer.
I know, man.
I'll watch it.
We're going to have to just
what else
because
is going to be on that Saturday night? What other choice am I going to have? One FC?
Man, $9.99, man. That's.
I'm all over it, dude.
One FC.
I'm all over it. I'll pay. So if any of you fans want to come on over and watch it, I would pay for that.
Well, count me in, man. As long as it's on your dime, I'll be more than happy to check it out. But
you never know what's going to happen.
Props to them. If it's going to charity, great. At first glance, I thought for sure it was because of I've actually read stories where Holyfield's he has to make $12,000 a month in child support payments, but they go retroactive. I mean, they're trying to go $12K a month for the last 5-6. I mean, the guy owes a couple $100,000 in child support. His window of opportunity is basically gone. I mean, there's only so much you can earn.
Thought it was a cash grab at first? So did I.
I thought it was. I thought it was. Just a stay alive type thing. It's unfortunate, man. UFC on Fox 5. You were talking to me about that earlier today, man. That looks like one of the better cards on. Well, we know how that goes. Sometimes on paper it doesn't translate, but assuming everything goes the way it should, looks like an amazing card on free TV.
It sure does, man. It sure does.
Oh my God. Bendo Diaz, Gustafsson, Shogun, and I'm really glad to see that they postpone the Penn Rory McDonald fight because I really, really wanted to see that matchup.
Instead of throwing Penn a different opponent, yeah. I absolutely agree with you. And assuming none of these guys get injured, what an action-packed card that is, and the fact that we're going to have a title fight on free TV, I kind of want to get your opinion on that. What do you think about that? I mean, this isn't the first time. I know the big Fox debut with Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos, but that was different. That was one fight, heavyweight title, introducing the world to the UFC and the Fox relationship. That was different than this.
Right. No, I think it's a great opportunity for them to really get some heat back and some spotlight back on the lightweight division. I mean, we were sitting here literally just talking about how that title's been defended by way of immediate rematch 3 times in a row. I mean, It's time to see a new matchup, and I believe a guy like Nate Diaz will present a lot of problems for a guy like Bendo. And I think it's an exciting matchup. Diaz really has turned a corner his last couple of fights. I mean, he's taken it to a whole nother level, and I'm excited to see a guy like that finally get his opportunity to challenge for a title. I think it's a great time to get people interested back in that division, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah, and I'm going to be the first one to say it that he's going to go in there and get his belt. Is what Nate Diaz is going to do. We were making some bold predictions a few months back, and that was more than a few months back now.
A little bit,
but.
What about Shogun Gustafsson? What do you make of that matchup?
I love that matchup.
I do too.
I think it's time for Gustafsson to get a well-known name that the Fox fans know now. They know Shogun after his last performance against Brandon Vera, and I think that's it's early. I haven't had a chance to break down the fight, but it's got all the early signs of Gustafsson being able to win that fight. I think.
I was going to say, I'm not going to sit here and predict upset just yet. We got to see how training camp goes. Somebody get it in. Who knows? We never know what the headline's going to be. But my first initial thought would be it's just a tough stylistic matchup for anybody who fights Gustafsson, really. Yep. But for a guy like Shogun, who a lot of times he's losing the reach with a lot of fighters in the 205 division. And you look at the technical precision and the footwork of Gustafsson. I mean, he's just got all the tools in the bag to make somebody look bad and, really get them desperate out there. Fantastic opportunity for him.
I can't wait to see that fight. That's a great matchup.
Tough matchup for
Shogun. A couple questions I had for you real quick before we just the fact that the lightweight title is going to be on free TV. We just finished up UFC 150, and talks all across the board was how bad the gate was and how bad the pay-per-view buys were, lowest that they've been in quite some time.
Yeah.
Do you think that has anything to do with throwing the next title fight in the 155 division on free TV?
No. I think it really goes back to them losing steam with that whole division and the title defenses. I mean, it's the same old story. I think it needs a good push. I think this is just the push that whole division needs.
I don't understand because it seems like the lower weight classes, we've been talking about it for a while, are the most exciting divisions in UFC, in my opinion. But yet those don't translate well to the buys. And it goes to show you that no matter how good or bad a heavyweight card is, people are going to buy it and watch it.
Yeah, look at the all-heavyweight card, UFC 146. Did great on the buys. I mean, anything heavyweight. And I think what it comes down to is just you don't want to lump everybody in as a whole and say the lack of finishes, but, the heavier you get, the more one-punch knockout power you get.
I'm on a different story. I think the problem is the lighter weight classes, you're going to have guys like you and I that are going to buy all of them regardless. Sure. And there's plenty of guys like us out there. But UFC, the mainstream fan, those are the guys that are buying the heavyweight card. So I don't know. I would hope that that's not the case because I think this is a tremendous matchup. Both these guys.
Oh, fantastic.
Both these guys are going to be able to sell the fight. I mean, let's make no mistake about it. Nate Diaz could sell a fight.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? I think a lot of it really comes down to just, was there any doubt in your mind that Frankie Edgar was going to be involved in another 5-round fight? It's a very tough sell, I think, for that, and just the immediate rematch. I think it was a double whammy this time. I really do.
And you're probably right. I mean, I wasn't exactly thrilled to watch that card last Saturday, but then again, once it starts, I start getting the butterflies, and I'm excited about it. Another question I had for you regarding UFC on Fox 5 is you already kind of played your card a little bit by calling Alexander Gustafsson said you're not going to predict the upset, but I wanted you to kind of play odds makers. I want to know what you think the odds will be for a fight like that.
It's funny. We're going to talk about odds again on Saturday and all that, and sometimes you see a lot of examples. In my opinion, what I'm trying to do is never just bet for the sake of betting. Really, if you're going to come up with a parlay, you should bet where you feel the odds makers have made a mistake. And I believe the odds makers are going to make a huge mistake in this one. And I think they're going to give Shogun all the love. I wouldn't be surprised to see Shogun open up anything less than a 2-1 favorite. I think there's so many just. For good reason. Shogun's a fantastic fighter. Don't get me wrong, but I think so many people have been drinking that Kool-Aid for so long, and I think so many people underestimate the skill set of a guy like Gustafsson. And I would not be surprised to see at least a 2-1 favorite Shogun opening up. And I think they're going to make a mistake that one, and they're going to leave some money on that table. If they open up like that, you got to put some money on that dog. Gots to.
See, I feel a little differently. I think this fight's going to be a little closer to even odds. I mean,
it should be. It should be. I just don't know that it will be. We don't know.
No, I guess we'll find out. I can't wait to see that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Alexander Gustafsson.
Good for him. He's getting his dues. He's finally getting his chance.
Finally, it's a chance for the mainstream fans to get to know Alexander Gustafsson. I think that's exactly what the UFC is trying to do, putting him on this card.
Yeah, and he frustrated the hell out of Thiago Silva. I mean, that's no small task. I mean, coming off the shelf or not, I mean, that guy he's a threat to end the fight anytime, and he simply got outclassed, and that was just something that guy has a lot of finishes against a lot of credible people. So this guy, he's coming up, and it's time for him to get his dues.
Yeah, and I think once the time comes, I think we're going to be talking about that fight and possibly the winner getting a title shot, depending on what happens with Henderson, the Henderson-Jones loser, where he goes into the mix. But keep your eyes on that.
And we'll see how it plays out.
Keep your eyes on that fight.
Definitely. Real quick, Ronda Rousey, she getting bigger than sport. Do you think other women are going to resent her? Just all the love. I mean, you see her everywhere. Dana White in the weigh-ins even got a Ronda Rousey shirt on. I mean, it's just you can't argue. I mean, this monster promotional machine is getting behind her, but are they Is it a bit much for somebody who's only 5-0? 5-0 at the end of the day.
Yes.
People forgetting that.
5-0, and with no disrespect to Miesha Tate, who I openly have a crush on.
Well.
She's really, she hasn't fought the likes of Gina Carano's or Cyborg Santos.
She doesn't have a who's who list behind her, and she's. It's funny because I'm already dipping into the notes for the Saturday show, but you know what they have her as a -600. That's insane against somebody.
A main event title fight. Crazy.
First off,
that's what's wrong with women's MMA. Love women's MMA, but that's the problem right there.
Let's not even talk about how good Sarah Kaufman really is and what a slap in her face that is. But let's talk about the fact that how can somebody who's 5-0, they don't even have enough track record behind them to justify being that heavy of a favorite. You haven't even seen her fight enough times.
No, you know what? She's so marketable. That's the problem. I think that's why other women are starting to resent her as much as they should. They absolutely should. we're talking about she's on Conan. We see her on Conan.
Right.
She's all over TV. And if it wasn't for the good looks, she wouldn't be.
Yeah, she's an Olympic she's an Olympic athlete for sure. And she's marketable. She's got an amazing skill set. But let's be honest. Sarah Kaufman, the lady she's fighting, loves to stand and bang. You're talking about a fighter who's 15-1. She has 16 professional fights and against credible opponents.
I get that, but take Sarah Kaufman out of this. Let's just talk Ronda Rousey here. If she wasn't good looking, would she be getting this kind of run?
I think she'd be getting half the run, I think.
No, she would be getting none of the run. Because look at the other women in the sport.
She'd be getting
Sarah Kaufman's getting 0 run.
Yeah.
0 run. You ask 9 out of 10 people, they don't even know who Ronda Rousey's fighting this weekend.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part. You're talking about somebody who's had 3 times as many fights and against credible opponents. I think it's insane. And you know what? She's gonna run into a brick wall. And
eventually,
and
Cyborg's gonna come back and he's gonna smack that face up.
Believe it. And we're trying like crazy to get Cyborg on the show. I can't see it happening any other way.
They got to put that fight together.
Ridiculous. Is there anything else on your mind?
No, but I do think Ronda Rousey's getting a little. Head getting a little too big. Maybe she's getting a little too.
But you know what?
Sport,
what's she gonna do? Say no?
Yeah. Hey, she's marketing herself and making herself a lot of money.
Yeah, she's
good for her.
Got to cash that ticket, man.
Absolutely,
for sure. Pound for Pound Sports, Facebook at Nick, PFP Sports on Twitter.
You can find me on Twitter at Darren PFP Sports.
Is that all you got?
That's
plugging anything else? You got anything else?
That's it.
Alrighty. Hey guys, don't forget to check us out on Saturday, 9 o'clock. Go to PFP Sports main page. Click on the radio icon. You can hear us on ESPN. A totally different show. Love doing it, and we hope you all enjoy it. Praise be the Most High. That ain't no lie. Catch you all next time. Peace.
And if you don't enjoy it, you can suck it. Cheers.